I don't know. Anyway, so I'm Altamise Nicole. I am the CEO and founder of the Azar Agency. We are an MBE certified PR and marketing firm. So we specialize in everything from digital marketing, social media management, brand development, websites, and traditional PR, which includes pitching, press releases, event management, all the things. And excited to be a part of this conversation. I'm also a board member for the Compassionate Transformation Community, which is headquartered in Pasadena, California, but they have webinars virtually, so they touch people all over the world. And we have a mission to help heal the hearts of individuals and help them heal through trauma and a lot of the things that we go through in life. So super excited to share any expertise and feedback when it comes to marketing and PR.
Okay, Lori, you're up. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you again, Altamise. I am Lori Brown. I am a certified SCORE business mentor here with the Low Country chapter. I am also a small business owner. My business is Aunt Lori's, and I started that about 8.5, 9 years ago now with the help of SCORE. So while I'm a certified business mentor, lately I have been either facilitating or helping with some of these workshops. So I am also excited to try to apply what I've kind of learned along the way, lessons learned, that maybe I could help you. And Altamise and I will do our best to make this interesting for you. So thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, ladies, so much. So we have some questions that some people have already sent in, but please, if you have a question, please put it in the Q&A box. But we are going to get started with social media part. Which platform of social media do you think is best for nonprofits? Altamise, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to say that all depends upon your mission. Like it can't be a blanket statement of which platform is best, because depending upon your mission and who your audience supports and the impact that you make, that determines, which platform is ideal to kind of lean into while making sure you tap into all the others. So I'm going to say it depends. I know that platforms like Facebook, they have built-in integrations and features that helps people donate. It helps you to highlight a fundraising cause and all of those things within the Facebook interface for your brand, versus other platforms like Instagram, Threads, or X, formerly known as Twitter. They don't have those type of capabilities because you're either private or you're public. So those kind of create some restrictions in terms of the customization. But, to answer the question, it really does depend.
Okay, Lori.
It also depends, if I could add, who your target market is. If it's more of a male dominated, they tend to like X or Twitter. Female, I guess, is a mix with Facebook. But yeah, it would also depend on the mission, but also who the target market is and the age of that target market. Younger tends to like the TikToks and the more graphic type. And then LinkedIn, I always kind of group in LinkedIn as a social media. I don't know technically if it is or not, but you should all have a LinkedIn no matter what your mission is. Have a LinkedIn page, especially if you're trying to attract board members and volunteers and funding.
Okay.
Absolutely.
What do you think that I know we talked about the target, you mentioned the target market, but does the sensitivity of the sensitive nature maybe of the nonprofit make a difference with the social media platform, such as if it's abuse, maybe like a nonprofit that handles it? Do you think that makes a difference or no?
I don't
No.
think that makes a difference. Yeah, I don't think that, I think you have to, regardless of the platforms, you have to be mindful of how you communicate out about sensitive topics because you can get flagged, you can be reported, you have an obligation and a responsibility to handle that message with care, especially when you are dealing with people that, have traumatic backgrounds and history, triggers and all of the things. It's critical that you handle that message with care, but as long as you do that, it can be used on any of the platforms. A lot of them have built in things and features and resources for, people who have dealt with, abuse, sexual assault, those types of things. So they embrace the communication of the support while being responsible and sensitive in nature in the communication and the message.
Yes, sensitivity to the topic is super important.
Yes.
You don't want to be disrespectful. You don't want to offend anyone. And at the same time, you want to defend your mission as well. So you want to stay very professional.
Okay, great. What about when you mentioned kind of flag? I've noticed lately, since I help operate the SCORE Low Country
Mhm.
social media pages, I feel like there's been a lot of spam lately coming to our inbox saying that we are violating all
Yeah.
of the policies or whatever, and they're not from Meta, they're not from
No.
Facebook or Instagram. I mean, I'm deleting them, not clicking on them, but that just happened like in the last month, I believe. Do you know why
Yeah,
that
and
is? That just a
it's
new?
getting worse. It's a more advanced form of hacking. So essentially, they're trying to get the information to your contact list so that way they can hack. So if you engage with them, um, that's where they're able on the back end to get access to your followers and send out messages. I actually had someone reach out recently because she did engage and they ended up taking over her Instagram account and her Facebook account and changed her password and changed her security answer. So she can't, there's no way she can get in at this point. And I just had to direct her to Facebook help. Um, because at that point, all of the avenues in which Meta will use to verify your identification for that specific page, they took over it when they got access to it. So please know that Meta will never go into a message, go into a DM and say, hey, you are violating certain rules, they will never do that. The reason is because that would be violating their own community guidelines. They can't do that. To reach out to someone or DM someone, you got to be connected to them. You got to be friends with them. And the meta pages are business pages. Businesses often you have to be invited, like a person will be invited to like the business page, but the business page can't go and be like, oh, hey, Lori, I like you. Let's be friends. Like they can't do that. So it's a violation to their own guidelines. So anytime you see those, like, you know, Ellen, you're absolutely right. Immediately report and block. And it is something that they're aware of. They are aware of it. It's just it's happening really fast and they're replicating it over and over again, so they're not able to keep up with it, but as long as we report them, it helps them to kind of mitigate.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of those as well, and I've been reporting it as spam. Kind of
Yes.
similar, but maybe this is helpful to all. I get a lot of calls about my Google listing is out of compliance or this or that. They will never call you as well. Those are typical spams. So do not engage with those as well because they're just
Yep.
scamming.
Good point. Good point. So speaking of Google, can you and should you, I know you can, but should you do Google My Business for your nonprofit?
Yes, I would say
Yeah.
absolutely. It's one of the main avenues of helping build your profile, helping build awareness, helping build just the fact that you're around, and it's one of the elements, it's one of the pieces, and it's actually one of the starting So for sure. And then you want to make sure that it's up to date. And it's a great place to load all your photos for any of your events or announcements, phone numbers and what you're up to. Yes, absolutely.
And it
Okay.
helps to give your nonprofit some
Credibility.
credibility on internet, because people will Google you. And if you do have a Google My Business on the side with all of your information and it stays up to date, stays current, it just makes you look more poised and more legitimate when they're doing their research.
So somebody just asked, how do you create a Google My Business account if you don't have a physical address?
So, oh, go ahead, Lori. Go ahead.
I can help a little bit with that because I do not have a storefront. I do not have a brick and mortar. You definitely need to load in an address, but you can set it up regionally. So mine says Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. You need to be consistent with that, but you can set one up, I guess it's very high level, but you can do that. Yes, it's possible.
Yep. We did the same. So technically the Azar agency, I operate out of my home, but I don't want to put my home business on my home address on there. So I didn't. So to Lori's point, you can definitely just use like city and state. I believe they allow you to use PO boxes as well if you do not have a physical location. So yeah, either way, I would highly recommend having a Google My Business just for the legitimacy of the research side.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
And then whatever address that you do use or however you decide to do that, be consistent. If you get into
Yes.
business listings, citations, any of that, be consistent
Yep.
with that because Google looks for consistency to make sure that you are a legitimate organization. So make sure you're very particular with that.
Okay,
And all
great.
your phone numbers match. People don't, you just make sure all your details match. It's very important.
So what about creating content for social media, your website? Are videos good? Are testimonials, all the above? And what's the best way to kind of create it?
So I'm going to jump back just a little bit because you hit a whole bunch of things in there.
Yeah.
You hit a whole bunch of things. So before even starting with the social media content, I highly recommend that you create some type of document that outlines your mission, your brand voice and tone, all of the brand fundamentals that are required. How you speak on social media, are there words that you do not use? Are there conversations you stay away from? I know that sounds like a tedious task, but you can talk it out in a voice note and then convert it to like a written document and then clean it up from there if that makes it easier. But it's so essential, especially if you start out doing social media by yourself or, working on the website by yourself, and then you hire someone to help you, or you get a volunteer to help you. Like those are the documents that they would need to make sure that they stay in alignment with what your brand says, how they speak, what they stand for, the visuals, all of that that plays a huge part. And I would say like all of those things, whether it's social media, your website, your email marketing, make sure it's consistent. Lori can attest to this, I'm sure, but that word consistency from a branding perspective, it's crucial. You get more results from being consistent than you do with volume. So be consistent and make sure your message is consistent, whether they're on your website, whether they're on social media, whether they're getting emails in their inbox, the message is the same.
Yes, the message is super important to be consistent no matter where you're at because you're building your credibility, you're building awareness, if you will, trust. And if you're all over the board with your messages and your photography. People don't know who you are, and if they're trying to figure you out and you're confusing them, that's probably not a good way to support your mission or your branding. And I know this is a nonprofit, but I still consider nonprofits having a brand because you're talking about your mission, your
Agreed.
image. But as far as developing content, I mean, when you first start out, if you don't have a lot of money, odds are you're doing it yourself. And again, that messaging needs to be consistent. As far as you want to be professional about it, you don't want to have profanity. There's topics you try to avoid: politics, religion. That's just my guidance. Those are very sensitive topics, and you shouldn't tippy toe in there for the most part. But you can generate copy. You can generate photos if you're at an event, if you're at a luncheon, if you're having a function. Everyone typically has a phone with them. Do your best to make them professional. You'll get good at that after a while, or you can get help with that. But that's a most economical way, is producing photography wherever you're at, or your product, or like if you're at an event, a fundraising event, and you can use those photos in newsletters, on your website, in your social media. And that is also a form of consistency. If you're good at writing, you can write, be consistent. Again, go back to your guidelines, make sure you're staying within your mission. And then there's this new, AI, all this fancy that I've been actually practicing with, generating. I wouldn't just generate text and use it, or content straight out. You could, as a generate some text, and then but still put your personal touch to it to show authority. You can do that as well.
I love that. And to add to what Lori mentioned, I think too, from a just time management perspective, we recommend batch planning, which is essentially where you take a dedicated day and you literally sit down and you focus solely on your content. Like you dedicate a few hours or however much time you have. And if you do it that way, you'd be surprised how much content you could fill up in a calendar in a month, where, you're focused on the content. You're like, oh, let me put this on Facebook. I can put this on Instagram. The messages can be the same. Oh, it needs to be tweaked a little here. You do that for a good 2-3 hours and just focus. You could have a whole month of content laid out. And, for scheduling, Facebook has, Meta has scheduling tools built in for Facebook and Instagram. You can also cross promote. So turn on those cross promotions. So that way you don't have to post especially if the message is the same, you don't have to go to Instagram, post it there, then go to Facebook, post it there. You can literally post from Instagram and it goes directly to your Facebook account. Like, utilize those tools, because they're there to make it efficient for you. And also, like, create consistency among the volume. Like, if you know that you're not able to post every single day, don't make that a habit of posting every day, because you're teaching the algorithm that you're going to post every day. And the moment you stop, it resets your algorithm. It's like a brain. And it's honestly like the habitual habit of a human, right? If you're consistent with a human, they're going to expect you to show up. And when you don't show up, they're like, wait, you're not showing up. I don't know if I can trust you. So you're back to zero. That's literally the algorithm. So if you can't commit to that every day, which you don't really have to, you can do once or twice a week. Start there and then create that consistency. So that way the algorithm knows when you're going to serve up the content. It'll help you. It'll support you in that, because it understands your rhythm and it understands your habits, and it'll be able to reach your people.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can't, you have to commit to this social media stuff, if you will.
Yeah.
And once you start, I mean, it can't be something you just haphazardly, I think I'll post today, and then forget for 2 weeks. Back to what Ultimately says, there's a rhythm to it. And you got to do once, twice, 3 times a week, and then be consistent with that as well. You can't just go dark, because then it's like starting over again. And it
Yeah.
doesn't, you know, especially if you're trying, not only does the algorithm not know you, but if you're trying to reach your message and your target market, and all of a sudden you go dark, you're going to lose their attention and trust as well. But
Yeah.
there are other softwares you can get. I know they're if you're trying to, if you do have a budget, like Hootsuite, I never know if I'm saying that right, but there are
Yep, Hootsuite.
softwares that you can go in and do 5, 6. They're basically a scheduling tool for you, but there is a cost associated with
And I see we have quite a bit of questions in the
it.
chat, so I want
We
us to go
do.
ahead and, yes, I
Okay.
see it. I love it. Okay, so the first one is you have a personal social media to have a business account. How do you build community through social media for your nonprofit outside of your personal followers? So that is a great question. So I know way back when, probably 2013, 2014, in order for you to have a business account on social media platforms, we utilize Meta, Facebook at the time, Facebook Inc. At the time, because they are indeed kind of like the Mac daddies in the social media space when it comes to testing, learning, optimizing. So a lot of the platforms kind of follow their lead when they change things and modify stuff. But that's when they allowed, like, they started to shift from kind of forcing a personal account association with a business page. Now, technically, you don't have to, right? And the way to avoid that is to use Meta Business Suite. So you create a business page through the Meta Business Suite. And if you do that, you might have to like verify your password and that kind of thing, but because it has to associate with a person in order to be a business. You can't be a business on the profile with no association to an individual, right? So it has to be connected to someone. But at that point, if you create it in Meta Business Suite, you can add employees and it not have to be through Facebook and Meta. Like, my team, they don't have to go into Facebook if they don't want to. They can just utilize the Meta Business Suite to optimize that. I do not recommend managing your nonprofit through your personal page, primarily because the platforms, they don't identify personal pages as they don't have the same levels of protections and or guidelines, etc., that an actual business account has. So make sure that you just set it up properly, and not use the personal page. You can always promote it from your personal page, but that should not be the place that you kind of build your nonprofit. You should actually have a formal social media profile for the various platforms. And even if you're not using the platform, reserve your handle. I can't stress that enough. Reserve your handle, because once it's gone, it's gone. And you can either reach out to that person to ask if they'll release it, which oftentimes they'll tell you, yeah, for a price, or you're just out of luck and you got to figure out another way, another handle that's quirky or connected or something. But reserve the handles, even if you do not think you're going to use that profile, that platform.
And if I could add to that too, the personal side of it is super important from a professionalism, because if you are correlated to this nonprofit, people are going to look you up as well. So you want to be very professional, both on your personal site as well as you are on your nonprofit. Because whether you like it or not, you're still connected behind the scenes, especially if you're out and about in the community and they're looking, you're basically on stage, is what I like to say. So just be cautious what you're posting and how you're conducting your personal page as well, because people are watching.
Yep.
And that's super
Yep.
important for your image.
Absolutely.
I would protect that. It's very
At all cost.
Yes. Yes.
Which actually, now that we're saying that, please protect your passwords. You do not have to share your password. Like, let's say you have volunteers and they're helping you with social media. You do not have to share your passwords to give them access. All of the platforms at this point give you an opportunity to share access without giving them your password. And worst case scenario, use a platform like LastPass, where you control the sharing of your password and it's encrypted. So they don't even see the actual password, but they can get access to log in. And then you can easily revoke it if you need to, swap it out. It's just a lot of you just protect your brand that way. So that way, it doesn't get stuck with someone who's no longer volunteering with a nonprofit or anything of that nature, and the brand itself stays secure. And I see a question: would you have a social media policy document to sample? So you can actually Google some templates for social media policy documents. They vary. I think the fundamental pieces that you need, and I think you're thinking of like the brand document that includes the do's and don'ts and all of that. Think of it kind of like your brand Bible. Think of it that way, where like if you were to step out of that position and somebody was to step in, they know how to like take the baton and keep it rolling. Like, so, and it's a working document. It's never going to be set in stone. It's always going to be ever evolving. So, don't feel as if you need to fill everything out all at once. Take your time in doing it, but think of it as your brand Bible. Like if you were to step down and give your position, your title to someone else, would they be able to step in and know how to keep the process going, know how to keep that nonprofit going from a social media messaging perspective, from a brand perspective, that kind of thing. And you can add as much or as little as you want to it.
Perfect. I'm gonna let you go. You're rolling there with the questions onto me.
Oh yeah, I saw them rolling in and I was like,
I know.
let's see. I do see a question, and Lenora, if you can, could you give us some additional insight on what you're asking? Maybe Lori, I'll read it out loud just in case you have you could understand it. It says, I had a Google My Business and it went online, Google Maps. They said this is how it is done. Is that correct? Oh, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Lori.
Sorry, I had my dog was crying all of a sudden. Anyways, I had to go. I don't know what he's up to. Anyways, yes, Google My Business actually did convert to a Google Map. I don't know why they did that. I'm still adjusting to it myself, but if you click in there, it's the same account, and then just locate your business and then log in as the owner. And then you can go in and modify the profile, add your photos. But that was something they migrated a little less than a year ago. And it is a little bit confusing. But yeah, when I go in and look for Aunt Lori, the map comes up. But then I just log in and then I'm able to update profiles. So it's still there. Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
And then I see, do you know how to set up those automated messages on Facebook business page so that when people click on your content, they will get Messenger asking if you need more help and questions? Yes, yes, and yes. Please look into Meta Business Suite. If you have a business page of any sort that you are managing, they automatically give you this free platform database where you can handle messages, not just from one platform, but from WhatsApp, from Instagram, and from Facebook, all in one place, whether it's messengers from Messenger, DMs, or actual comments. It literally comes in one place. You can add labels to it, you can categorize it, you can create funnels with it, and you can also set up automated messages there. So that would be under the community management side of Meta Business Suite. But again, they give this to everybody who has a business page, and it's completely separate from the Facebook.com or Instagram.com. It's totally separate. And I believe they have an app as well. I have an app on my phone where I can easily message. And even if you have a business page, I don't know if you guys have noticed, But if you have the Messenger app, now they have integrated it to where like these are my messages and I can tap this line here and it shows me all the pages I'm connected to. So I can swap back and forth in Messenger as I need, right? And then just swap back to myself. So they've integrated a lot of things. So the automated messages would definitely be in Meta Business Suite.
The AI generated messages, how do you add?
Oh, Laura, which one do you use? Do you use Open Chat?
Yeah, well, I've been using Chat GPT 4. But what
Okay.
I do is I generate and then I modify until I get it the way I like it. And then I cut and paste. I don't automate yet into, because I like to get my own personalization to it.
Yes.
And so I'm not
Yes.
familiar. Maybe it's just me because I'm kind of a novice at it, but I like to do it external and then I put it into social media. And I don't know if there's a
So
better way of
I
doing it,
love
but that's
that.
how I'm doing it now.
No, I love that. I love that. And yeah, so AI is only as impactful as the prompts that's being added into it.
Yep.
So um if the prompts aren't as detailed and sync with what you want, it's not going to come out the right way. And even when it does come out the right way, I still lean into Lori's practice. You should never, ever, ever just take it as is and put it in your social media content, primarily because it's AI. Like it's not going to resonate with your audience because it's not intended to resonate with your audience because it's totally just generated from the internet. Like they like it's
Right.
not intended to like drill down into your audience to where it just taps their little heart and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to donate." Doesn't do that. So you're going to have to fine tune it. But I use chatopenai.com. And you can actually train it. So like in that one, I have different conversations based on different categories, different clients, different needs that I have, and then I train it because it's all of it's like a brain. So and I talk to it the way I would if I'm training someone. So it's like if it gives me something, I'm like, no, that's not what I want. I need you to fix this. And it's like, sorry, let me fix it. Like, and then it fixes. And then I continue to do that. And it remembers what I told it 2, 3 days ago. So I can always come back to that chat and be like, hey, I need da 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 da. Can you write this? And it'll be like, sure. And I'll be like, no, I want it to do this. And then they'll be like, updated. And it'll update. So AI is really great, but it's, the cautionary areas with AI is to understand that you can't make it as if it's your own. Meaning, if you write something, you cannot use AI fully to write it and say it's your own. You cannot do that because AI pulls from things that already exist on the internet. That's how it gets the information. So technically, that would be like an IP, intellectual property violation, based off of who it took it from. So you have to make sure that you are very ethical when it comes to AI. And there are AI tools. I don't know from a nonprofit side if anybody, maybe the people that you want as sponsors or the companies you want as sponsors, but there are AI checkers where they will put your message, your content, whatever, in the checker to see if it was written by AI to just vet if you really know what if you're really writing it and if you really know what you say kind of thing. That's a
Yeah,
great question.
you wanna, yeah. The one I use is Copy Leaks, and
Okay.
it does check. So when I'm done doing my creative side of it, then I pop it into Copy Leaks, and it tells me, oh yeah, this is I generate. It's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating. It's scary in a way, but you want to be an expert of whatever it is you are writing. So if you're writing, something about your nonprofit, one would hope that you are already the expert of it and you're using AI just to sort of save time. But you shouldn't rely on that as to be, you should be the expert. They shouldn't be the expert, or it shouldn't be the expert, because people will see through that. So if you're trying to build trust and, your image and your consistency, and you're using just AI generated text, people see right through that, and you're going to lose them quickly.
Yep.
And it's not ethical. I agree.
Yeah, it's not ethical. There's actually the author of I'm Judging You, Lovey. She is actually, like, if you type in AI for a cultural message, literally a cultural message, or for the Black audience, it's utilizing her book. And she recognized that it's utilizing her book, her brand, her messaging, and all of that is pulling from it. And she just wrote a post on LinkedIn about it. Like, hey, like, she's a legitimate source that AI is pulling from at the moment, which obviously is an IP violation for her, because it didn't ask. It, it didn't say, hey, we want to use your stuff from your book. Like, it didn't say anything. So yeah, just from an ethical perspective, just be careful. And I noticed that you can only post from Instagram to my Facebook business page, but not my personal page. Is there any way that I can post to all of your pages, both from personal and Instagram? So I'm assuming, please feel free to chime in and leave a follow-up question underneath, but I'm assuming that's cross promotion, meaning like if you post on Instagram, it's being shared to your Facebook business page. So all of this is connected to how you're set up and the fundamentals of how you set up the back end of your page. So if you are noted and you have a business page on Instagram as either a creator or an official business page, they're going to expect you to share to a business page because you are a business. They will not expect you to share to a personal page because one would assume if you're a business and you're cross-promoting, you're going to want that content to go on your business page. There are ways to cross-promote to your personal, but it's not best practice, which is why it's not easily done. It's not best practice at all. Best practice is sharing to your business pages and do the cross-promoting thing, and then manually as a person going to that business page and then sharing out that content. That would be best practice because it's just making sure the consistency of the message is coming from the brand and not from you as a person. If you are promoting or selling any type of form of service, etc., and you're making money off of it in any form, that's a violation of the personal pages. So you have to make sure those community guidelines, Facebook and Instagram specifically, they don't play about. And if you are caught in violation of them, they'll pull your page and never, like, you wouldn't be able to talk to them because in their mind, they're like, hey, you checked the checkbox. You said you adhere to the guidelines and this goes against our guidelines. So we're kicking you off, kind of thing. So that's probably why you're experiencing that, where it's automatically putting you to the business versus the personal page. And I would not swap back and forth because I know on Instagram, you can easily click that little switch to switch back to personal, then switch back to business. I would not do that. I wouldn't do that because it impacts your analytics. It impacts your data because personal pages, they don't get analytics. You don't need analytics if you're just talking to friends and family. You don't need that. But if you are a content creator or if you are a business, you need it. It's imperative. So switching back and forth impacts your data. And it is also, it's just unethical. You want to make sure that you stay consistent.
Altamis Davina made 2 more comments if you want to scroll down and see those.
Okay, yes. Thank you. Okay, my business page content goes first for best practice. Yes. So that's a setup that Meta has put in place because it is best practice. They make it very difficult now, especially because they have like this account center. I don't know if people have noticed this, but now all of the accounts have to be filtered under this account center. And that's again to ensure the protection of the consumers on their platform, because let's remember what's coming up in 2024 and what happened in 2016 with Cambridge Analytica. So they are in place, in position to, they say, we learned from what happened last time. So we're going to make sure we protect our people at all costs. So best practice is always, if you are a business, you share to that business page, and then you manually share as a person from that business and share it to your personal page. Okay, and then I see, are videos always better than photos? Not always. Not always, and here's why. Frames, and this is specifically for Instagram, like frames are when you have multiple images, like a carousel, like you can have multiple slides and it makes people swipe. The reason videos are so impactful is because people linger on them. But that's the same thing that happens with photos with carousels. People linger. And if they linger on it, it tells the algorithm it's important. It tells it like, oh, this person likes this content. We should serve it up more. So I wouldn't necessarily say that videos are always better. It is video first. So like Instagram now is a video first platform. TikTok, video first. Facebook is video first. So they're literally video first, but there are ways you can utilize photos to kind of do the same thing that videos are great at. And I would encourage people to utilize Canva. So like when you think of videos, a lot of times people think you have to like do a photo shoot and get all, real people and all this stuff, but literally you can do it with quotes. You can take the look and feel of either Threads or X, formerly known as Twitter, and like create like a little graphic that it looks like it's from a tweet, and you can type it out and literally make a reel that types out your message and do a reel that way. It's technically a video. So I would use Canva to like play around with like animations and things like that to get creative if you do not have actual video footage that you can utilize. Get your message out in other ways.
Yeah, I was just using Canva before we came on this call. So yes, I recommend that. What about ultimately the length of a video? You don't want to get too long because then you're going to lose people's attention. I mean,
Yes.
do you have like I've always heard like 30 seconds or so, and then you kind of lose
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
You don't want it a movie. You want it just a snip.
Yes. And people, this is like a stat that I don't like using, but it's true. You either get their attention in 3 seconds or you don't.
Yep.
Like it's that simple. It's 3 seconds or they're gone. So like I wouldn't go beyond 30 seconds. 15 is ideal. But those first 3 seconds are imperative. That is whether some will keep scrolling or they stop to like see what you're doing. So yeah.
On Canva, since this is always a question, if you are registered 501(c), you can get it for free.
Yes.
Account. So that is definitely something to invest in.
Same with it's not free, but you get discount with like Constant Contact and quite a few other software. Yeah, make sure you're taking advantage of it.
Right.
And I see another one that says, I've been off social media for months. I needed a mental break. I know I need social media to grow my nonprofit community. What advice would you give to slowly reintroduce myself back to social media and re-engage without burnout? Beautiful, beautiful question. I always tell people that social media is literally, it's like money. And money sitting on a table it's paper. It's paper. What gives the money value is who's holding it, right? Who has the money in their hand and they're utilizing it and they're exchanging. That's what gives the money power. Otherwise, it's just paper on a table. You know what I'm saying? So like social media is the same. It's like a brain. It's like every piece of content that comes in, you could tell the algorithm you don't want to see it, or you want more of this, or you can mute people, you can hide, you can do all kinds of things, utilize those features. And when you take a mental break and you're just like, I just need to get away and I kind of just want to focus on my business or focus on the nonprofit. One thing that businesses do that I don't think a lot of people talk about is they don't associate. You remember I talked about the business page has to be associated with a person. so to speak, they don't connect it to a real person. They connect it to an alias. So like, let's say, just totally gonna make something up here. The company's name is Blackboards, right? The person that the profile that they'll create would be Bunny Barson. Bunny Barson will have a personal page on Facebook, and Bunny Barson owns all of Billboard's like social media stuff. So as people come in, they never need to use their personal. They just go in as Bunny Barson, right? I would actually utilize that. Create like an alias profile that you can connect the business to. So that way, if you don't want to go in as yourself, you don't have to. Granted, with Meta Business Suite, you don't have to, but you know, in moments where you kind of, for Instagram, for example, if you're used to the native use of the platform, I would recommend, you know, going into the business side and staying on the business side of that platform for yourself, like staying on the business page. And please know that you can modify your feed. You don't have to accept everything that comes in. You can filter it out, hide people. Please block if you need. Protect your peace. Protect it at all costs. Let's see. It says, I noticed that you can only post from Instagram to, oh, I think we answered that
Yep.
one. And we've answered that one. How do you use tags to steer visitors to Facebook and other social media sites? Tags. I'm assuming it's hashtags?
Hashtag, yeah, I don't,
So I would assume
Yeah.
hashtag.
oh,
Okay.
that's your
All right.
favorite topic. She loves to talk about
I love
hashtags.
hashtag. And also,
Hashtags.
Look, she lights up with that.
she does love hashtags. And should you tag the word nonprofit? Like, should nonprofit be a tag? Answer
Yes.
that.
However, when you use hashtags, there are two different content lanes. Okay. So there's the content lane of the brand, and then there's the content lane of your audience. Your audience most likely will not use the same hashtags you use as a brand. You got to think like your audience. You got to think like how they think and use some of the hashtags that they use, right? And always remember that they're living, breathing content lanes. You can click on the hashtag, see what they're talking about. You can actually utilize that to be some brainstorming ideas of what to talk about. If there's a conversation that's trending, or you know, something that you see as a problem in the community that you support and you serve, you can create content geared toward that because they're talking about it. You can see it. So yeah, I would say, and another thing with hashtags, don't just use a bunch. Don't do that. There's because it starts to look spammy, and the sweet spot is literally about 5. At max 10 to 11. Anything past that, it just looks like you're just using hashtags just to gain visibility, which doesn't really work.
But if the hashtag is some, for lack of a better, hairball that nobody understands anyways, it's irrelevant.
It's
It's got to be a relevant hashtag that someone may click. And then there's others that are also and then engage in that. But if you just make up something that only you understand, it's like
doesn't work.
Irrelevant.
And I would say, please check your hashtags. Check them. Just click to be curious about what content is under there, because you may be surprised what type of content is included in the hashtags that you're using. Just click them and just vet them and make sure that it's okay for you to use them. And of course, anybody can use hashtags, so you can't really, tell someone they can't use it, or, so just use your better judgment. But literally we had, I remember working with a client and there was like a Scorpio challenge or something like that. And I told them, I said, check the hashtag. And they're like, oh, it's great. It's great. It's great. It was connected to some adult content, if you can imagine. And I was like, guys, you got to check the hashtag, because you just don't know. So always check them. And don't just check once, periodically. Just check them, because it's real. It's real life content. Let's see. What are your takes on social media profile being more graphic, i.e. Canva made graphics versus being more realistic? Personal pictures and videos. Great question. Stock images are very noticeable. They don't look real. And it's kind of hard for people to resonate with them because they look very stock imagery-ish. Um,
I would agree with
but
that.
I mean, yeah. So I mean, but you know, sometimes you have to use them if you need, but like I would steer away from that. And like, you know, the graphics are good as long as they fit, right? As long as they fit for your brand. And use the personal pictures and videos when you can as appropriate. But yeah, stock images, they don't really resonate with a lot of audiences, and that's across all industries.
Yeah. And if you're trying to emotionally connect
Yeah.
and their stock images, there's no emotion there. People want to get to know you and your organization, your team, and that's super important. And again, go back
Yes.
to consistency. I hate to keep using that word, but when you do post photos, make sure they're consistent to your mission and your branding.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Um,
The dog grooming
you
one
mentioned
caught my
that.
eye because I'm a dog lover, but I'm trying to figure out the
Yeah,
question.
I have
I
a
have a
dog.
dog grooming business.
I'm wondering if it's about the Google My
Yes,
Business.
that's the same one. Yes, that's her. That's her.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely Google My Business for dog grooming, for sure. You should have that and a website and social media presence. Absolutely.
Oh, and I see Stephanie, she said, don't create a page with a fake person. They will eventually require an ID to confirm. If it's a real person, it becomes a big problem. If it's not a real person, it becomes a big problem. This is if you're flagged. That is totally if you're flagged. There are really large companies that I am very familiar with that do have these accounts, primarily because they just don't want it associated with one employee. They can't by default. But you know, these companies also may not get flagged because of how big they are. But that is a good point. If you get flagged for any like violations to the platform, that sends an alarm to their security team, to IT. And that's when they request the ID. That's when, you know, you have to talk back and forth with their people. But that's when, for some reason, someone has reported your page for a violation of one of the community guidelines, or if it gets hacked and you're trying to get access again, that is when it becomes an issue. And I'm saying this because Meta is one of our partners. So Meta is a partner of Azar. So we work directly with them on, you know, client projects and things like that. So I kind of know the back end behind the scenes of stuff. And it's always a pleasure and honor to share it because most people don't have that access. And they don't mind, you know what I mean? They are people, humans just like us, and there's no way that they can touch and help 2.8 billion people that actively use the platform every single month. So they, you know, work with and partner with small businesses and companies and entrepreneurs and consultants like myself to where they help us, and in turn we help them. So yeah.
Answered. Altamise, you have two comments on that right at the bottom. If you want to go to those.
Okay. Oh, yeah, you got reported. We got reported to say for Facebook donations. Yes. Like that's when you get flagged. If someone reports your page for anything, that's when it becomes like, what's going on here? And if you are working with like a government entity, that too, right? Because again, this sounds weird, but the political side of it all, Cambridge Analytica, what happened in 2016, they were not paying attention. Now they are paying attention, and we're coming up to another election. So that's why they're really cracking down and changing some things around and things like that. But that's a great point. Does it matter if you post your hashtags on the caption section or comment section after you post? Great question. So here's my take on it, right? The comment section it's treated as a comment. So it's treated as if like any other person left you a comment on the post, right? It could be active during that time of engagement, but it will fizzle down because it's just a comment. If you put it in with the actual post, if someone was to re-engage with that, and you've seen it, if someone makes a comment on a picture that you did 3, 4, 5 years ago, like, oh, this is pretty, it literally filters it back up because the algorithm's like, oh, still important, okay, let's bring it back. Literally, that's the same thing. So if you put it in the comment section, it has that real-time engagement of being bumped up one time, like when you post, versus, if someone goes back to that post and engages with it, it's going to filter it back into people's feed, who may engage with it if the hashtags are on the actual like the actual post itself.
So
A great question.
Altamise, we're right at an hour now. It's a little bit
Okay.
after 1 o'clock. So I'm going to and I think we did address all the questions that were in there. I'm going to let each of you just wrap up. Maybe just say something like, with your nonprofit experience, maybe I wish I would have done this, or if you have money, spend it here if you're just getting started, because we had a lot of people attend How to Start a Nonprofit, which was our first workshop in this series. So there were a lot of questions about, if I have a tiny bit of money, where should I go with that first? Laura, you want to go first?
Tiny bit of money.
Tiny
I
bit of
would
money.
definitely, depending on the nature of your nonprofit, I would start regionally, start slow, I guess. Because you want to be cautious with your money, and it's always good to network and get known out into the community. Join the chamber, make sure that you're upfront with people, getting comfortable with speaking in your mission and your messaging and all of that. Social media is for the most part free unless you're running an ad, but yeah, I mean, take advantage of all of the free social media. Your time is money. So pick 1 or 2 social media platforms. Don't try to do everything all at once. Figure out which one makes the most sense for your target market. Get your business, Google My Business up and running. Excuse me. And your LinkedIn profile up and running. Those are all free. But I would network. Yeah, and get press releases posted, what you're up to, where you're at, what your mission is. If you're opening a new building, if you're hiring staff, if you've just hired new board members or brought on board new board members and volunteers, it's a great way to get into the media. And Altamise can speak to that, but press releases are a fantastic thing we didn't really talk about much today.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, if you don't have much budget and or wiggle room, PR is a great investment. It is a long-term investment, meaning, if you put a press release on the wire, you get that guaranteed exposure, but you pay for it to be on the wire. So I would say invest in PR because that also helps with your SEO. It's like it hits both, and it helps people get to know you, like you, or trust you, or all three. So that as you're building, people can hear and learn about you, and they can Google you and find you and all that good stuff.
And SEO is search engine optimization. She likes to throw those
Lori.
acronyms in there. But yeah, it's for your website. Just because
That's why we make a good team.
A nonprofit doesn't mean they're going to find you. Yeah. I mean, you can pop a website, but nobody will ever find you without all that magic behind the scenes.
One more quick question. As a nonprofit, do you need to be diversity certified on social media and on paper?
I don't think so. I don't think you have to be. I know on social, you can note yourself as a, Black-owned business, women-owned business, that kind of thing. But as an MBE, that is a strategic decision that we made because we want government contracts. We would not have done it if we didn't want government contracts, because we got to pay every single year to renew it, and it is not cheap. So we have a strategy behind our MBE to gain like business with the government. If you don't have that, right, you know, you really want to be like very intentional with the certifications that you receive, just to make sure that they're, at the end of the day, going to help you in the mission that you have.
Okay, great. So thank you so much, and everybody will be receiving this recording. There's also going to be a little PowerPoint with it, which will have their information that you need. And I cannot bring the PowerPoint up still. We've had all kinds of technical difficulties today and logistic issues too. But again, thank you so much for attending our social media and marketing workshop for nonprofits. And I hope you'll be with us next week. We will be talking about grant writing. And everybody have a great day. Thank you, Alchemies. Thank you, Lori, so much. Great information. And we will see you next Tuesday.